Hey guys, this is Mr.PvE. This is probably like the 15th try of doing this. So I'm just gonna say what I want to say and stop trying to do intros. Today's video is gonna be about The Division. Some of the stuff, the news and stuff like that that's come out for it. But for the most part, I'm not trying to feed you all kind of news and information and all this kind of stuff. I just want to talk about from my point of view. There's a lot of videos out there where you can go to kind of go see where the division is heading, more or less, and their patch notes and all that stuff. But what I want to talk about is like I've been a division player since Division 1, and I love the game. Game was amazing. And then they announced the Division 2, and I was super excited for it. Went over to it, started playing it, and I love the game. I love a lot of the changes that they've done. I don't like a lot of the changes that they've done, but some of the changes that they're planning to do, I feel like are really good and are going to change the game again and make it feel fresh. And for those of you who've played the Division 1, you guys know that towards the end, they started doing a lot of major changes to the game that ended up changing the game completely to where it didn't feel the same as when the game first came out. And there's stuff about the Division 1 that I loved, and I wish they bring that back. Obviously, I know they won't, for at least not for Division 2, but hopefully for Division 3 they'll bring it back. And then there's stuff in Division 2 that I really absolutely love that I hope carries over to Division 3. One of the big things that I really liked was in Division 1, there was a point system, right? I think it was like 10,000 points was max. And you had to spec that into the 3 different categories, your reds, your blues, and your yellows. And while that system was okay, I feel like the tier system that we have now is a lot better, and I love that. So I'm hoping that they keep that for Division 3. But one of the things that I've never understood why they did it, and I was always kind of like, oh, they're testing it out. They're gonna see that no one likes it, and they'll switch it back to the way that Division 1 was, and that is like the exotics. In Division 1, you could literally have every piece on your character exotic. It didn't run good. It sucked. Having 2 exotic guns and your exotic like sidearm, that was okay. Like it wasn't that big a deal. But to run every exotic gear piece, there was no point for it. It actually hurt you. But you could do it. It was your choice what you wanted to run. And then Division 2, when they were like, oh, you could only have 1 exotic gun, whether it's your primary, secondary, or your handgun, but you could only run 1. And then the same thing for your gear, you could only run 1. With the gear and stuff like that they have in Division 2, like I think that system where you could run whatever you want will completely change the build mechanic of the game, and that in itself would make the game feel good, right? And they didn't give us that, and now they're considering locking you out of your gear once you start a mission, and I'm assuming that's going to carry to raids also. At first I thought it was just going to be for PvP, but there were on the patch notes and on the PTS, it was also for just the regular PvE stuff. And that's going to change the game a lot. It's going to make it more challenging. And I kind of welcome it. I think it'll be fun. But I know that that's going to piss off a lot of people. Because normally when you run, even just the legendaries, you switch out of your build 2 or 3 times. It's rare when you wear the same thing all the way through. Especially skills. You might not change your full build, but your skills tend to change depending what section you're on the legendary. And then in a raid, it you run different builds for different sections of the raids. And now if they lock you out to where you can't no longer change builds anymore, like I believe they said, like after you start a mission, you have 1 minute to pick what you want to run, and then you're locked into it. And the only thing you're going to be able to change is your grenades, which is, it's going to make the raids difficult again. It's going to make them challenging again. It's going to make them to the point where you really have to think what you're going to run before you go in there. And even to the point where when you're running the raids and you're trying to help people, like you're trying to carry someone through a raid, it's going to make it a lot harder, because when you're able to change the builds, you can play the role of many people and therefore help that eighth player, the person you're trying to help, run it smoothly and guarantee a clear for them, or at least a good experience. Even if it's not a perfect one, it'll be a good experience, because they'll get to pass it. They'll get a chance to get the weapons if they need the weapons or whatever. But when you're stopping people from switching their gear sets, especially for a raid, their builds, it's going to complicate things. Because normally I think in a situation like that, you would want to have 2 people dedicated for like the first boss, 2 people dedicated for the second boss, 2 people dedicated for like the third boss, and then 2 people that have like builds that can do a little bit of everything to kind of fill in the gaps. And that would take up your 8 players. But when you're trying to help a person, you're trying to run a player through the raid so they can get a clear or get their, whether it be their keys or trying to get the EB or the other guns from the second raid or whatever, it's going to complicate it, because you're not going to have that flexibility. Like everybody's going to have to run their role and run it through sections where that build is not ideal. So the chances of them going down more is going to go up. The chances of people making mistakes, like that percentage is going to go up. So it's just going to change the game a lot, and you're going to have to really specialize in what you're trying to do. But with that being said, they're also moving the gear pieces around, and they're increasing the number of percentages that you get for certain gear sets, or I believe it's the secondary talent or whatever you get for those gear sets. Like I believe one of them is like gonna go from 20% healing to 40% healing. There was another one that was like, I think the skill haste was gonna go from 20 to 30 or 40, something like that. So that's gonna allow you to make kind of the builds that you already have now with less pieces, and therefore allowing you to put other pieces in to really make hybrid builds to be able to run through the whole thing. Me myself, I'm very big on hybrid builds. Like that's, and I don't even know if I'm saying that correct, but that's the way that I like running my builds. They're not always just full red, full blue, full yellow. I do have some builds that are like that, but for the majority of my builds, they're mixed match builds so that I could do a little bit of everything. And the reason for it is just that I like running legendaries a lot, and I like helping people clear the legendaries and stuff like that. And even just people that don't even need my help, but just to join a group of randoms and then just play and have fun doing the legendaries. I love doing that. So I have a lot of my builds that cater to that style of playing, because you're not playing with the same people all the time. You're always having to adapt to what everybody else is running. Like if you join a room and everybody in that room is running like a tank build, you might pass it. It's gonna take forever because there's no DPS there, right? Everybody's staying up, everybody's surviving, but everybody's taking a minute to kill one ad, and if they start like they start just raining down grenades on you, like they were on sale or some shit, you'll eventually get dropped and you're not going to do much. And if you're the one person doing DPS and everybody else is tanking, a lot of the times the ads focus you because they realize you're the damage. So they take you out. The same thing when there's a lot of people running all DPS and you happen to be running a healer. They're like, hey, we would normally be able to kill these guys, but that guy's keeping them alive. So then you start getting focused. You know, you get drones, the exploding drones, you get grenades, you get shotgunners that rush you. They'll completely ignore the DPS people, which is just ridiculous, but they'll charge you. And I think that is going to be just completely crazy now when you're trying to run with randoms. Like if you join up and you get a group, like I said, where you can't switch builds anymore, and you join a group and everybody's running DPS, or everybody's a tank, and you're the only DPS or the only healer, it's just gonna take forever to pass the mission. So they're still gonna be playable. You're still gonna be able to pass them, but the time it's gonna take you to do that is gonna jump like crazy. Like I think the fastest time that I have with randoms is 21 minutes for DU. I can imagine that the fastest time I'm going to have with randoms going forward, if that change happens to stay and that's part of the update that we get, where you're just going to get locked into your gear. I'm pretty sure it's going to be 40 to an hour to run a legendary when normally you do it, you know, anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. So it's just going to be more challenging, more stressful, especially when you're playing with randoms, especially because nowadays, before I was able to join a legendary within seconds of doing matchmaking, the last, like, I don't know, year, I would say, normally takes about anywhere from 15 to half an hour to find a match. And it's starting to take even longer at times for me personally to find matches, to play with randoms on legendaries. Doesn't matter what legendary. There's times that I put it to matchmake and it takes like 40 minutes before I find a room, and I'll do the whole fast travel to the dark zone so that I could change servers, then look for another one. I do all the little tricks to try to get into a server where there's people, to up my chances of finding a room. It still takes a long ass time. And then sometimes you get lucky and you'll find one within the first 5 minutes of you doing matchmaking. But it's just ridiculous, like how long it's taking. And then when you finally find one, I would say like 90% of the time now when I play, the gear score that people have is really, really low. And that's not necessarily the issue, because you could still have someone that has a really low watch level and they're just really good players, to where it kind of cancels out the fact that they don't have everything maxed out yet, right? But the problem is, a lot of the times when you get matched up with these people, they want to go Rambo. They are trying to run the legendary like any other mission and in any other difficulty, and then it becomes a whole thing where you're constantly having to clutch it to pass it, or pass a section so that you can get your teammates up, or you're constantly trying to revive people because they're just going down so much. Like, you can't even do the damage because you start doing damage and then they go down, and then another one goes down, and then another one goes down, and you're like, crap, I can keep shooting, or I could try to get them up. Some situations, you got to keep shooting, thin out the herd, and then try to revive them. Other situations, depending what you're running, you're like, I don't got the DPS to take anybody down. I got to get people back up because they're my DPS. So that to me is where the problem is going to start with the whole locking the gears. Because you're normally, if I'm in a room like that, where I've done legendaries where the 3 other people that I was playing with were under 100 on their watch. And for me, it was like, it was a challenge. Like, damn, I really want to get these guys through a legendary, and so they could experience it, because I'm pretty sure like either they haven't completed it, or when people join, or when they join people back out, or they kick them. Because I've seen that on like forums and on discords, where people's like, oh, I joined so and so, and then he kicked me because I was a low watch level, and that sucks. Like, you should always try to help. If you're running like 4 or 5 times and you just can't pass it, then that's understandable. You gave it your best, can't do it with that team, you leave, right? But to just be like, nope, not even gonna try to play with you, that's kind of messed up. So I don't like doing that. So I stayed there, and it took us like an hour and a half to pass that legendary with those randoms that were under 100. And as soon as we passed it, the very first thing that one of them said was like, hey, do you mind running us through this legendary? I was like, game on. That's what I love doing, is running legendaries. So we went to the next one, we passed that one. We went to the next one, we passed that one. We went to the zoo, we passed that one. And then Tidal Basin was the one that we needed to complete all the invaded to do it. And one of the guys didn't have time, so he backed out. And then we couldn't get someone to join us that would stay, because those guys were really low watch levels. They would join and be like, oh, hell no. And they would just dip. And I couldn't find anybody that was on that I knew that would help me. So that's the thing right there, where it's like, locking the gear is going to suck for situations like that, where I could be like, okay, in this section, I'll do DPS. We should be fine. On this section, I'm going to let them do DPS, and then I'm going to do a healer boost build to get their damage up higher while healing them. And that gets you through that section. Then you get to the next section, you're like, okay, in this section, you just got to wait out this little bit of time, and then you can start attacking them. So I'll run a tank build and just grab aggro like crazy so that they don't get killed. And then when the right time comes, you start telling them, okay, push up, and you dominate that section, you go to the next section. Or you just run skills. If you have a really good, strong skill build that does a lot of damage, you could be doing the damage of like 2.5 to 3 people, depending how you have your skill build set up. And then that kind of counters the fact that their builds are not optimized or really fixed to be able to run a legendary, and you're able to get through the legendary that way. But when they lock the gear on you and you just can't do that anymore, it's going to be hard to join randoms and help them when you can't switch out of your build and you're locked onto one gear set. So it's going to be kind of tricky. It's going to suck a little bit, but it'll be a challenge. And I think it's, for me especially, it's going to be a challenge that I'm going to, like, as soon as it happens, start learning what's going on, the mechanics of everything and how everything's going to work, and then start building towards that. I love making builds. So I'm just going to start building towards that so that I can have one build that I strictly run when I'm running with randoms. And that build is going to be able to do a little bit of everything. So depending on the situation, I'll be able to help in some way. It won't be the best at any particular thing, but it'll be able to do everything. And I have a build right now that I do that with. So I'm hoping that when this whole change happens, if it happens to stay, because there's still one more PTS that's going to happen, and depending what happens there is whether or not they're going to keep the gear being locked for PvE or not. So we'll see. Another thing that I want to talk about was trying to go back to that whole exotic thing. Why? Like, why can't we run whatever exotic we want to run? Like, maybe don't make it exactly like Division 1 where you could run every single item, but why not at least 2 exotics? Like 2 gear pieces or 2 exotic guns, so that you could run, like, your primary could be your exotic and then your pistol, right? Like the pistol should have been its own category. It should have never been put together with your primary and secondary. There's not a whole lot of pistols that are exotic anyways. So I don't see the point of not letting you run whatever exotic pistol you want whenever you want. You know what I mean? Like, not tie it into the other two guns. That to me was kind of, it doesn't really make sense. And I was hoping that they would change that. And I know I've seen it in some forums that people have asked to let us run more exotics or whatever, and they don't ever even bring it up. So I don't think it's even in their thought to do something like that. But I would like it if they at least gave us the option, like, all right, you can run 2 exotic guns, but you can't run no exotic pieces on your gear. Or you can run 2 exotic gear pieces, but you can't run any exotic weapons. You know, like something like that, like a compromise. Like, let us run the 2 that you're letting us run now, but let us pick which 2 we choose to run. So if we choose to run, I don't know, the Memento and the Vial, because we're trying to do some crazy hazard thing or whatever, let that be our choice. Like, these are the 2 I want to run. Like, fine, I'm good with not running an exotic gun. Let me run these, you know? Or you're like, oh, I want to run the Elmo and the Busy Bee, right? And I get with the Busy Bee, like, that would make stuff OP, right? You stack it real quick, put whatever other gun, bang, bang, bang. Now you're doing a butt ton of damage. With an exotic there, it'll make it even more so. I get that. But let it be my choice. Maybe that's what I want to run. Like, I'd rather run those 2 things, right? You could run, like, for people, it would open up builds. Like, you could run someone that could be running a tank build that normally doesn't do any damage because he's running a shield and he has to be shooting with his pistol. You know, bang, 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 stacks up the shots, takes the pistol off, takes 1 shot with whatever gun he has, or empties a mag out. Bam, bam, bam. Now he's doing some damage. He could help a little bit more and be a little bit more than just the tank. So I don't see the big issue there with any of those. With that compromise, like, don't let us run all the exotics if you don't want, but at least let us run the 2 exotics that you do let us run. Let us run them however we want to run them. Let us pick where we want them. Like, I don't see the big deal there. But yeah, like, there's just little things that I don't see the point of them locking us out, right? And also, like, from my point of view, I'm a PvE player. I don't really play PvP, so I just strictly play PvE. Which is not what my name is, by the way, because I see sometimes people say, like, oh, he doesn't play PvP. Look at his name. It's PvE. PvE is player versus everything. Okay, so back to what I was saying. From my point of view, PvP people complain a lot about how all the updates and everything that's going on is strictly for PvE players and not PvP players. But the biggest changes and the ones that change the game and how it plays, those changes all go because of PvP players. This gun's too strong. Nerf it. That gun is perfect for PvE. But because PvP players are having issues with it for whatever reason, it gets nerfed. And then we take the hit on that. This gear set is too strong. In PvE, people are doing this. Nerf it. And then, boom, here comes the nerf. PvE players take the hit on that. When it was just fine for PvE. Because you're not hurting anybody else. And if you're running, like, the legendary content, like, those builds the way they are when we got them, and they were still the original build that they gave us before they nerfed it, like, those were making it so that you had fun when you were running legendaries and you could actually, like, complete them without struggling a whole bunch, trying to figure out what you're doing or if you're helping someone or whatever, right? But because in PvP people complain, it gets nerfed. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I see a lot of times people will say, oh, PvE gets everything, PvP gets nothing. And that's the same thing that happened in Division 1. And towards the end of Division 1, what they started to do was separate whenever they nerf something, they started to separate it. We're going to leave it alone for PvE. We're going to nerf it for PvP. And then people were like, oh, hell yeah. And then they said, when Division 2 comes out, they were testing it so that when Division 2 came out, that's the way they were supposed to implement buffs and nerfs. Depending on what's going on, it's too strong over here, nerf it, but leave it alone over here. It's too strong over here, nerf it, but leave it alone over here. And then what happened? They go to, okay, PvP is struggling with this because of whatever mechanic is not working well with this mechanic, nerf it into the ground. Nerf that build into the ground. Like when Striker first came out, I was all over Striker. It was bugged and not a lot of people were using it. And I was still using it because I love Striker in Division 1. And people who didn't want to use it because they're like, oh, it's not like Division 1. When you shoot people, you don't get your health back, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people were getting upset because they were like, this build sucks. Striker sucks. And the biggest reason was you lose stacks too fast, right? And when it first came out, it was like it was in Division 1 where if you missed, you lost a stack. Every second, you lost a stack. So if you shot and missed, you were technically losing 2 stacks, right? But that build literally shows you how to aim, because the better you get at aiming, the more damage you would do with that build. And if you were someone who wasn't that great at aiming, like when I would recommend builds to people, I'd be like, how's your aim? Are you dead on, 50-50? Like, what's your average like? And then they would tell me anything other than 50-50, and I would be like, use a Striker. It'll show you how to aim better. It'll get your accuracy up. Because you start to notice the more I land my shots, the stronger I'm getting, the more damage I'm doing. And then people complain. And then eventually they were like, you know what? Make it so that missing shots doesn't hurt you now. Right? You can miss all the shots you want, and you're only losing the stacks per second and not the stacks per missed shot. And now what? Now that build is like one of the most used builds for damage. And they use it in their incursion, they use it in raids, like legendaries. Everybody has a Striker build. Right? Best build, best build for this, best build for that, best. And I'm over here like, yeah, I fucking knew that. You just had to know how to aim. If you didn't know how to aim, it was worthless. But it was like high risk, high reward. And on top of that, it showed you how to aim. So that no matter what build you ran, your aim got better. But people were like, no, like I don't like that. I don't like the fact that you can't keep your stacks up. Yeah, you can. Just aim. Like you don't even need to go for headshots. Aim at the body if you need to make sure you're landing your shots. But learn to aim. It'll help you in the long run. The more shots you land, the more damage you do for any build. That wasn't just a Striker thing. Every build is like that. You can have the strongest build. You could be the person with the best build in the freaking game. All red, glass cannon, blah, blah, blah. If you can't aim, that build is fucking useless. Right? So wouldn't it make sense to want to run a build that rewards you for landing your shots? Because it would also teach you how to aim properly in the game. Like, it's just nuts to me that people were so, we hate this, it's not the same, blah, blah, blah. Right? And then the people that who could actually use it and run it and do DPS with it, their complaint was, well, I don't get my armor back. In Division 1, you got your armor back when you landed shots. All right. Isn't there a backpack talent that you could put on that when you're below so much health, landing shots get you your fucking armor back? Most people run fucking half shields with all their builds anyways. You're telling me that you can't just run like a revive hive or whatever and a half shield, and the second you notice that you're about to start taking some serious damage, or you know you're gonna hit below 20, you can't just take out like a vector that has a fast rate of fire. You can just shoot people to crit and get all your armor back and treat it like Striker from part 1, or a fucking AA-12, which is what everybody uses to build stacks anyways, or a FAMAS. Like, all these guns are high rate of fire, which is what you need to make that work. Like, the build was there. The pieces are there to make it what it was before. All you had to do was look around and do it. But people didn't like that. People don't want to try. They want to be spoon-fed. And it hurts the game. It hurts the game. Like, when I first did the legendaries, they were at their original difficulty. And they were amazing. Amazing. I love them. I love how hard the fight was in order for you to complete it. And then people complain. Too complicated. Too hard. Can't do it. Can't be done. Then they nerfed them to the ground. And then here comes me and people that I play with who were able to pass it at the highest difficulty. And now we're going in there and we're like, this is boring. This is boring. Like, it's easy. It's too easy now. Right? They did the same thing with the zoo and Tidal Basin. When they first came out, amazing missions. Amazing. You had to work as a team. You had to like really know what you were doing. Like, there were sections that you had to push, because if you don't push, you would get killed. Amazing. Amazing. They nerfed that shit into the ground. Right? The bosses have too much armor. Yeah, it's supposed to be a fight. You're not just supposed to go in there and go, pew, pew, you're dead. Give me my shit. You're supposed to go in there, fight, and earn it. A lot of people complain. Changed it. Tidal Basin, same thing. Oh, it takes too long to kill the machines. Right? And people were staying in the room. They were like, nah, get out there, be somebody. Threw gas in there so you can't stay in there. And people complain, like, now that we're out here, like, it takes too long to take these boxes down. Nerf this shit. It's crazy. And then sure enough, they nerfed it. And all the people that passed it, why could they do it? Because they saw the challenge and they were like, nah, fuck this. We're going to get this shit done. We're going to pass it. And they adjusted their builds and their game styles to make sure they could complete it that way. But there's people that come in and like, no, I can't do it. You know? And I get that some people can't play for as many hours as other people can play. Totally get that. And it's like one of those things where it's like, I only got an hour to play. I can't be here trying to pass this mission, taking 3 hours to pass one mission, and I only got an hour to play. I'm never going to complete it. I totally get that. And it sucks. Right? You're a gamer, but only part-time because you have a life, you have to work, you have to whatever. You can't be there forever. Right? I get that. But isn't it still a challenge for you to go in there and be like, for the 1 hour that I'm playing, I want to be challenged. I don't want to be spoon-fed. Like, I paid money to be entertained, to play this game and have fun. Like, if you want something that easy, like, go play something else. Like, the Division, I feel like it's supposed to be like a tactical shooter game, right? Like, that's what it's advertised as. So you have to be tactical. You have to strategize. You have to adjust to the missions to be able to pass them. You can't go into every single mission wearing the exact same thing and be like, oh, I'm going to pass it the exact same way as A, B, and C. It's like, no, you could probably run the same build, but this mission's going to take you a little longer because that build isn't the best for this particular mission. It works great on these other two, but on this one, it you need to like move something, tweak it a little bit, right? And that's the whole thing with the Division is the build mechanic, the ability to make your builds just ridiculous. Like for a while, we were kind of like messing with each other to make the craziest builds that we could make, and then like me and my son, and we started making builds where it was like a 4-5-4 build, where it was 5 reds, 4 blues, 5 yellows, and then if you ran the tactician or whatever, it became 6 yellows, right? And then if you ran the capacitor, now you had more than 6 reds, right? And then if you got certain kills with the way you would set it up, you would go from 4 blues to 5 blues. So now you were running builds that could do the damage of a 6-tier red with like 1.8 million armor and still have 6-tier skill. Like you could do that in the game if you look for the pieces and you kind of go like, okay, this and this gives me this buff, which is technically the equivalent of having 1 red tier or 2 red tiers. Or doing this and doing this gives me that. Or running this piece and this piece gives me the armor, but it also gives me skill haste. If I run 2 of them, I get, you know what I mean? Like if you look through them, you can make those builds. And then we were using those builds on just random missions, trying to see how much we can get done with funky ass builds that you would never do or never really think of. But because we were kind of like, let's come up with some crazy crap to run through these missions or whatever, we were able to figure them out and then be able to do all this stuff that normally you wouldn't be able to do. And it was fun. It was fun doing that. And then on my channel, I even have a series where it's like, I believe it's a Get Funky. And it's just a bunch of kind of off the top or over the top builds. Like I have a 6-tier healer striker build. So I can still push out a butt ton of damage with that build because it's a striker and it's just going to push damage. But now I can heal. So now I'm not handicapping myself to being like, well, I can heal, but I can't do damage. Right? Now I can heal and I can do damage. Right? And then I have a 6-tier yellow skill build that's a striker also. So not only can I do damage with my gun, but then I could also throw out skills and have my skills even doing more damage. And then really put in the hurt on the AI, right? There's a build that I have right now that I've been running a lot, and I just pump out a butt ton of bonus armor to everybody in the group, right? I'm giving everybody in the group like, I think it's 2 million or a little over 2 million armor bonus, right? So bonus armor, like 2 million bonus armor to everybody in the group with that build, and I can still do damage. So it's like you got to look at what's there and adjust to what you have and play it so that people stop complaining about certain things in the game, and we can get the content that we're supposed to be getting and enjoying that more difficult content that's going to make you want to come back and play the game. Like this game is not going to beat me. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to adjust these things, and I'm going to beat it this time. Right? Or if you're there with a team, you're like, I'm running this. Who's running that? What are you running? Can you run this? And then you go in there as a team, and as long as everybody's playing their role, you're able to pass it. You know, and if you're a solo player and you're like, well, it's only me. I can't, I can't have people running this and this. That's why I have to run this. And that's why it's hard. That's what I just said, or what I just said earlier. I made that build, the 545 or whatever. You could do everything with that build, and you could totally solo stuff by yourself. You don't need to have the difficulty of a certain mission nerfed or complain about the difficulty of something. You just gotta make the build. And now with Countdown and the fact that you could farm that so easy, it's even easier than Summit to farm. Like, there's no reason for you to say like, well, I don't have the time to get a build to be able to do that. But it'll be better if they just lower the difficulty. Why? Even if you only have an hour, be like, okay, on this day and this day and this day, I'm a farm. These are my farming days. And then the next day, that's my building day. And all you do that day is go through your stuff, try to get your build, whatever. And then the next day, now you play. And you're able to pass all that stuff that you couldn't pass before. And now you have one solid build. And you're like, okay, now I want to make, say you made a red build. And you're like, okay, now I want to try to make a really good blue build. Okay, farm. Build day. Next day you play and dominate. Right? It's a looter shooter. Like, there's going to be a grind to it. It's not just going to be like, welcome to the game. Here's everything that's in the game. Have fun. Part of the fun is getting the pieces. Right? You're farming, you're grinding. You're like, I haven't got crap. Every piece I got has been shit. Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, boom, that perfect piece drops. The one that you were looking for. You're like, fuck yeah. Right? That's the reward. Like, I grinded my ass off, got this piece. Now I'm going to go make my build. My build's going to be that much better. Right? But some people want shit handed to them. And it hurts the game for everybody else. And that's what I was saying. Like, my personal opinion is there's a lot of people who complain. Like I said, to me, this is what it seems like. I might be totally wrong, but to me, this is what it seems like. PvP players complain, then the developers adjust for those complaints, and then PvE players are the ones that get affected with it the most, because PvP players complain about this particular item, and then they fix it, and now this item is fucked up. It's going to be a never-ending story with them. There's always going to be something that's going to be the meta, just like it was in Division 1. There's always going to be a build or a gun, something that becomes meta. And the minute that starts getting used too much and people start dying to that particular, whether it's a talent, a skill, a gun, whatever the case may be, that's going to be the new thing that needs to get nerfed. Right? And then PvE players are like, well, what the fuck did you do to my favorite gear piece? Or what the hell did you do to my gun? You just ruined this gear set. Like, there was no need for it, right? If you're gonna nerf it because of PvP players, nerf it on their side. It was like Kevin Hart that was like, crash your side. When the girl's trying to crash the car, like, oh, kill me, no, kill your side. Do that shit on that side. Fix that side. Don't touch the other side. Just like if PvE players are complaining, this piece is broken, this needs to get fixed, blah, 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 nerf it, or buff it, blah, 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 blah. If you're going to do it to that side only. Leave it the hell alone on the other side. If no one's complaining on the other side, why would you mess with it? You're just messing up the game. And then another thing is like these things that I don't think anybody asked for, but they felt the need to fix them because of whatever reason. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when the raids first started and people were running aces and eights. That was the build. That was the build that everybody wanted. A good one or two people, one on A, one on like team A, one on team B, running aces and eights. Completely different experience. And then out of nowhere, build gets nerfed. Not even close to what it used to be. No one freaking runs it. Everybody just abandoned the fuck out of that gear set. Right? They were like, it's worthless now. Like, and it really is. It's crap now. Like, I see it every now and then. I see someone running it, but that build is crap. Compared to what it was, that build was crap. Then I can't remember the name of the other one, but there was the one where it would pulse and then bring in the loot and the bullets and the special bullets and everything. Like, that was such a simple build for farming. You could just go and do whatever and kill people or whatever, and then it would just push out, bring everything into you. That's all that build was for farming. It was one of the best builds for farming. And then they were like, oh no, people don't like it. We're going to change it. Completely change it. It's something completely different now. I don't know because I don't ever fucking use it. But that was a good ass build. And then they nerfed the shit out of it. I didn't even nerf it. They just completely changed that build. And I feel like that's a repeating thing that they do now is they look. The simplest way to put it is if the community is having fun with it, something's wrong with it. You got to do something to it because something ain't right. We're not supposed to be enjoying certain gear sets the way that we are. So developers are like, gotta change that. Right? Like we can't do that. We can't let them have fun. Take that shit away. Now, immediately. Overnight. And then there could be stuff that's completely broken with the game. Completely broken with the game. And you're like, man, this needs to get fixed. Then they're like, we're working on it. And the next week you're like, damn, did they say when they were gonna fix that? No, they haven't mentioned it. And like here we're here like 2-3 months later, we found out what's wrong with it. We're working on fixing it. Should be out within the next few patch updates. It takes some freaking weeks, if not months, to fix something that affects us either from getting loot, getting keys, whatever the case may be. It takes them forever to fix that. But let it be something that benefits us, the community, the agents, a loot cave, a new way of farming. You figure out a way to wear certain pieces and your teammates wearing these other pieces and now you can one-tap stuff. Like, let us figure out how to have fun. Gotta nerf that shit. Gotta fix that right now, overnight, 24 hours. Fix it. Don't go home until it's done. What kind of fucking shit is that? Like, that you hurt your community like that. And I feel like right now, a lot of the stuff that they're doing is catering to the new players. But the new players are coming, right? They're playing the game here and there a little bit. And then they bounce. They dip out. They don't stay around. Like they don't. Especially if they come in thinking they're going to go in and play some PvP. Oh, PvP people are going to run you the fuck out real quick. Uninstall real fucking quick. If you come in thinking you're going to play the division and be like, oh, I just started. I'm going to go dominate PvP. Good fucking luck. Wish you luck. It's not going to happen. The way that the PvP is designed, new players you're on the chopping block. You're not going to have fun. You got to go in and play a hot minute of PvE. Get your build shit. Get your fucking, expertise. Get your shit proficient. Get all your shit done. And then still be good enough of a player to go over there and fuck around with those people. That's a jungle, man. You're prey. You are prey if you're a new player thinking you're going to go into PvP and do anything. Even someone like me, I don't fucking play it. I go in there from time to time when I'm bored to see what's changed, what people are using, shit like that. Or I go on watch people's streams that are playing PvP just to watch. Don't really fucking care for it. Don't go into the dark zone. Don't do conflict. Don't do none of that shit. Really don't care for it. Not my cup of tea. And I go in there. When I go in there, it's like, oh shit, that dude's good. Right? And then I go look at the pieces that because that's another thing I don't like. I don't like the fact you can look at other people's shit. But I'll go in there like, how the fuck you kill me so quick? This is some shit right here. And I'm all thinking like, this motherfucker's rocking some. Then I go in there and that dude's like 1.5 million armor. How the fuck did this motherfucker? What the fuck? It's like, I don't fucking get this shit. And it's just like, what the hell? And my son plays that shit all the time. He's in the clan. I think they're like rank 1 or whatever. Right? And they're fucking monsters. That's what I'm saying. If you're a new player and you're thinking, oh, as a developer or themselves, division, whatever, if they're like, we're going to cater to the new players, we're going to move stuff around to make it easier for the new players, and those new players are not coming for PvE, they're coming for PvP, they're gone. They ain't going to stick around. They're not. They might be like, oh, I just need to fix my stuff up a little bit. And then you work a little bit, get your shit a little bit fixed up. You come in, you get rocked. You're like, what the fuck? I fucking grinded for fucking 2 months. And then I go in there and it's like, I didn't even do shit. I'm done. I'm done with this game. Fuck this game. Right? Or they come in and they're like, nerf that gun. Because every time I fight someone with that gun fucking kills me. Nerf it. And now you're catering to new players nerfing shit that don't bother nobody else. Whatever build you run in the Dark Zone or you run in Conflict, I'm going to tell you right now, for a fact, someone's already nerfed it. Someone's already figured out another build that'll nerf your build into the fucking ground and bury it and then piss on it. That build you think you're going to dominate with, you're going to get shitted on. You might come in there, beat 1 or 2 people, but then you're going to run into one of these monsters that are in there that are just waiting for fresh meat. And they'll be like, oh, he's running that build. That's cute. Switch my build. Let's go. And then you just get dumped. You just get shit on. There's nothing you can do about it. Because the way that PvP is designed in the Division does not cater to new players. And it never will. Unless they change it for Division 3. But as it stands right now, it does not cater to new players. You are literally that goat that gets fed to the fucking T-Rex in Jurassic Park. That's what you are. You are that goat. You're going in there. They're literally going, here, come play the game. It's catered to you. Go in there. Enjoy, fellas. As they run the fuck out. Because they want no part of it themselves. So if you come into the game as a new player and you think you're going to do anything in fucking PvP, good fucking luck. I wish you the best. I really do. But trust me, you're going to get mad more times than you're happy. Even if you're a really good player, and I mean you're like top notch, sponsored, whatever, you're on a team, whatever the fuck ever, it don't matter. Because the way that PvP is designed, you don't stand a fucking chance in the Dark Zone as a new player. You got to come in. You got to put in the time. You got to grind. You got to look at what people are running and then build to counter that. Right? And then build a counter for that yourself. So when you run across someone using that build on you, you could slap on that build that you made to counter that build and counter that build. Right? That's 1. 2, your watch. It doesn't matter that much in PvE, but in PvE it matters a lot. Now with the new update, the watch doesn't mean shit no more. Apparently none of that's going to mean anything. Right? The watch don't matter, and I believe the expertise doesn't matter. It's just going to be run what you got. Right? Well, now you have people who have more experience than you. Still not going to cater to you. It might help you out a little bit. A little bit. You might be able to fucking stay alive for 30 seconds instead of 10. But it's not going to make much. It's not going to make much of a difference. Because these people have been playing this shit for a hot minute and know exactly what's going on. So if you run into another player that's the same level as you, that's 50-50. That's a toss-up. You might win, he might win. Just depends who's better there. That's fair. 100% fair. But you run into one of these people who's been playing this shit for a long time and has a counter for a counter for a counter to counter the counter, right? To put you under the counter, shaking, scared, like that. It's never going to cater to you. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm so excited for that change. It's going to make it more fair. If the watch doesn't matter and the experience and shit don't matter. These people were monsters before that system came out. Right? They were already fucking monsters before that shit came out. And then they brought expertise and everything. You just like fucking injected them with steroids. It made them worse. It's not going to change nothing. Trust me, it's not going to change nothing. And that's coming from someone that doesn't even play it that much. And I know you're thinking, oh, because you don't play it that much, you don't understand how much is going to change. Okay? I got people who play PvP who are really good, who are ranked top 10 players. And they're already making builds for people coming in after the update. That's what you do. You get ready, you prepare, and then when they come in thinking they're hot shit, you piss on them. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to make a bit of difference. It's not. Because people who are good and play the game didn't need none of that shit in the first place. When they got it, that was just roids for them. They got all swolled up. And then they were really hurting you. And then people came in, oh, you know, as long as I get my expertise all the way up, I'll be able to fight against these people and kill them. The people that I'm talking, I'll say the clan, KOZ. Okay? I've seen these dudes play before they even had their shit to expertise 5. They were playing against people who were already expertise like 20 or some shit. Like they were the max at the time. And these dudes were going in there. Some of them didn't even have expertise. Some of them only had up to 5. And they were going over there and shitting on the people who were expertise 24. They still couldn't hold a candle to these dudes. They were just shitting on everybody. And then they were like, they keep talking crap. Expertise, expertise, expertise. And now the fucking tables started shifting, right? It was like this, that was a chance they had at winning right here. This is the chance that the other guys had at winning. And they would still win over and over and over. And now they started climbing on expertise. And now the same as you in expertise, or the same as those players who thought that they would come in and just get expertise all the way maxed out and be able to compete. If they were beating you when they were this under you, this much less DPS, armor, everything else, now they're at the same level as you. What do you think is going to happen then? You're not going to fucking win. And that's what I'm saying. The whole taking expertise out of it, taking the watch out of whatever, not going to fucking matter. Because these people were already monsters. It's not just KOZ people. I've seen some other people playing this shit that are, my God. Like, it's just like, yeah, you're another reason why I don't fucking play PvP. That shit right there, that shit you just did right there, yep. That's why I don't fucking play it. Because it's not for everybody. And it doesn't matter if you're good. It honestly, it'll help you. It will help you. Probably even more than a build. Being good. Like you're just one of those players that is fucking good. That you might have a chance in there. But you going in there thinking that you're going to outbuild someone who's been building the whole time for that shit? Nah, man. That's just nuts. So yeah, I just wanted to come in here, make the video. Like I said, I haven't been on here in a minute, so I'm probably going to move all this stuff around, edit it. Probably have like a video or something playing in the background, some division or something. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Or if I ramble too much, I apologize, but just wanted to get it out there. And yeah, see you guys on the next one. Hopefully, like I said, I start putting up at least a video every week. Hopefully, that's the plan. Don't know if it's going to work, but that is the plan. Have a good one. Till next time.